Okay.
The sound. Oh my god, we forgot to put the mic in. The sound isn't off. Can everyone hear? No one's been saying anything so far.
Yeah.
So you haven't missed anything.
I'm just going to get this on first, then before I speak.
Hello, everybody. Good. Everyone is saying hello and good evening. Hello and good evening to everyone.
Hi. Okay, I'm nearly finished just making marks on this canvas because we've had a lot of requests that I concentrate more on the painting than answering the questions. So today it's going to be very much about the painting. And Freya will read out questions and I will answer them, but the focus today, as I say, is the painting. What we will do, though, is we will download the questions and we will answer them, as it were, in a conversational setting, in a non-live situation. We're just...
Shall I sort of explain while you're doing that?
Yeah.
So what we were thinking of moving over to slightly was we keep doing the Monday and Wednesday live filming, but because it's sort of always a compromise between painting and getting through all of your questions, we're going to take all the questions that we couldn't get to, and then after Wednesday we will film just a sort of interview kind of conversation going through your questions, and then upload that onto YouTube separately. So it won't be live, it will be me going through whatever we couldn't make it through previously. So you'll still be getting Dad on Monday, Wednesday and Friday, but the Friday won't be live. It will be Dad and I discussing your questions and taking a bit more time over them, because there are lots of very good questions that, because Dad's sort of focusing on painting at the same time and I'm focusing on writing down more questions, we never quite get to mull over coherently. So that's going to be sort of the new schedule, I think, and we're going to see how that goes.
Yeah, 2 days
from this
a
week. So today 7 p.m, Wednesday 7 p.m, and Friday 7 p.m. But Friday is not live. It will be the YouTube answering your questions, and we'll put up a link to that. But Dad's channel on YouTube is just Roger Dean. It's simply called Roger Dean, and that's where you'll find everything.
I'm going to be doing 2 very similar paintings today, at least getting them both started. It's really, I'm going to be painting rocks in a nutshell and a tree. This was something I wanted to do a long time ago, and sadly, in a very stupid accident, the sketches and things that I did for this got destroyed. So I've not gone back to the project properly ever since then, but I will today and during the course of this week. And if these work out how I want them to, I'm going to get down to doing it as a bigger painting.
What was the accident?
They were so well packed in a box that there were 2 small paintings on top and then 2 of these that fitted exactly into the box. And the box got recycled, sadly.
Oh.
People thought that it was empty. Okay, so this is one way, and you'll see how that works out presently. I'm just going to grab another canvas, which I started work on.
Spot the difference?
There's hardly any, but there is a difference. In this case, the painting was originally going to be called Finisterre, which is French for Land's End, effectively. And people are very used to the word Finisterre because it comes in on the shipping forecast. But it simply means Land's End. So this is what this was called, Finisterre or Land's End. And what I'm going to do now is put very wet translucent paint on it. Same colour as I've just done. It's a mix of blue, magenta and yellow to come out with some dark blue-grey. And it will drip. And I will spend time trying to catch the drips, but frankly I won't catch them all and it won't matter.
Shall I ask some questions while you do it?
Go for it, yeah.
Okay, sorry I missed the name, as usual. I will try and be better at that. One of our questions was, did the oil paint dry yet?
Actually, the oil paint did. So I'm going to re-look at the oil painting.
Is there a band you'd have liked to have worked with?
Oh, dozens.
This is why I get through these questions so quickly.
Okay, well, I don't know. I liked bands. I liked Ryuichi Sakamoto. I liked Brian Eno. There's lots of stuff I've liked, and simply not really had time to even consider. And besides anything else, I wasn't asked.
Have you talked to either of those guys?
No. I think I've spoken to Brian Eno once, but I haven't spoken to Ryuichi Sakamoto. It's the paint is this wet and it's on a vertical canvas, and the fact that it's running is what I want. So that isn't an accident, it's what I want. But I will take these out, because these rocks are not meant to look as if they're on scaffolding.
What was your original intent or aspirations as a painter? Did you stumble into doing album cover artwork, or was it part of you ... I guess what you're going to ask is plan? Was album covers...
Not really. I don't know if this is exactly true, but it's something I've considered, that I really had to learn how to represent things in 3 dimensions, because my shapes were very complicated, and you can portray a box in what the design profession calls a 3-view plans, which is plan, front and side elevation. That's how most architecture was portrayed, and it's how most industrial design is portrayed. Furniture, silversmithing, ceramics, that's how it all starts out. And my shapes were very complicated. They couldn't be built from those simple plans. So I looked at how to represent things much more in 3 dimensions. And so that was my first interest in sort of moving away from the very simple technical drawings. I shouldn't even call them simple, because in a way they're much harder because they have to be precise. It's a much harder way of working.
What's this painting for?
It's because it's an old idea that never had a fair crack of the daylight, and I thought I'd give it another chance.
Oh, I like this question. Have you got any amusing anecdotes concerning Storm Thorgerson?
Concerning Storm Thorgerson?
Yeah.
Well, actually, he was a very, very nice and amusing guy, but he was incredibly enthusiastic about bloody arguments. Fortunately, not really with me, but his enemies were record companies and band management. And he did say on the BBC, when they asked him, how can you tell when all these ideas, when you've got to the one that's going to work for the band? And he said, well, if the management hate it, that's a good clue. If the record company hate it as well, then it's a slam dunk. And that really did get his mindset in a nutshell. He loved the fight. I remember once we were editing an Anderson Bruford Wakeman Howe video, and Brian Lane, the manager, was getting really upset because Storm wasn't part of the storyboard, it wasn't part of the script, it wasn't part of anything. Filmed the guy swimming naked in the lake. And this was just after John got a lot of flack for going for the one. And Brian said that he didn't want that scene in the video. Well, it wasn't in the video. It wasn't ever going to be in the video. But he and Storm were having such an incredible vitriolic row on the phone. And Brian was threatening to have people come round and confiscate it, and it's going on. And I said to Storm, I said, why are you arguing about this, for God's sake? It's not in it. He said, yeah, but I don't want Brian to think he can have his way. I thought, okay.
You've got loads of these. I was just thinking, like, you should call stories about Storm Stormies. Little Stormies.
Yeah, Storm's got the perfect name for any kind of book or film. He had a book called Taken by Storm, and I thought about his pictures. I thought, oh, that made me very jealous. What a great title. But we had a company called Magnetic Storm, and I think that made Storm jealous. I'm not expecting to wipe these out. I'm going to paint them out later, but I'm just reducing the density of them.
What do you, Will Baker wanted to know, what do you do in terms of a finish or a varnish?
I don't.
Nothing.
No. Will? Hello? No, I don't. It's acrylic, and I have sometimes matted down high gloss details, but I don't normally.
Jonathan Turner said he sent an email to the website a little while ago but hasn't had a response back.
Oh yeah.
Is everything okay? Yes. I guess maybe we just missed it. What do you think might have happened there?
I don't know. What was the question?
He didn't say. I'm sorry, it might just have got missed. What should he do? Email again? Or
yes.
We can check through.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'll write the name.
Please resend. Yeah.
I've got your name, so we'll have a look.
Okay. I'm going to put this one down now. Maybe. No, maybe I'll work on it a bit more.
Kaya asked, do you ever use iridescent paint?
What?
Do you ever use iridescent paint?
No.
Can I have yours then?
Yes.
Because I bought some in Japan and they're about £20 for a small bottle.
Oh. Well, they may be very special. I don't know.
They're all just like those interference ones.
Well, there's all kinds of different ones, and I was interested in them, but I didn't. I wasn't interested in the sense of putting them in a painting. But yeah, you go for it.
I love them. I actually think. Do I use Holbein? I do use Holbein. Yes. And I've been doing 3D printed models of things, and iridescent paint or acrylic on 3D modelling looks absolutely amazing. It looks like sort of weird, squidgy jelly bioluminescent, like when you photograph it.
And does it make you talk like that?
Like what?
Is he busy? What?
Is he busy? What? Get your hearing aid.
What did you say?
I can't remember.
Okay.
You'll have to watch back.
Okay.
What are the brushes that you use? Adam asks.
Well, they're all kinds. These are pro art, but they're not. You know, I'm not sort of recommending them. They are sell them. I buy them. End of story. They're okay. They don't do everything, but they're okay.
We had a good question. I said it kind of disappeared very quickly, so I missed the name again. What do you see as the future of album cover art?
What do I do?
What do you see as the future of album cover art? How do you imagine it?
Well, that is a more complicated question, because one of the things that happened in the 70s, when people first could really afford them, I mean, if you go back to the early 60s, album art was almost irrelevant because people only could afford singles. I'm talking about England, really. I don't know what the situation was in America, but by the late 60s, when people could afford albums, it became more important to get it right. The focus was terrifically on good photographs, really, of the band. And I suppose the Beatles, with Peter Blake and Sgt. Pepper, moved away from that, and it's often cited in polls of best album cover. I think really because two reasons. It was a change in direction, and it was the Beatles, of course. Peter Blake did many other album covers, by the way, although he is really known for that one. Here's what I think. Back then, in the 70s, late 60s, 70s and on, the album with the music was a fabulous gift. If you bought it for yourself, if someone gave it to you, if you wanted to give it to somebody, it made a fabulous gift. It was something to be treasured, and it was the whole thing. It was the album cover, the sleeve notes, the music. It all came together to make really the perfect gift. And it was the only time in history when you could give somebody music as a gift. You could give them a musical instrument, you could take them to a performance, but this was the first time in history where you could give music as a perfect gift. Of course, recorded music existed before with the shellac 78s, but the LP with the art and the music perfected a medium, and it did make the perfect gift. The record companies never really understood that, and when CDs came along, they saw it as an opportunity to cut the costs of packaging rather than a way of reinventing the gift in a smaller scale. Where that was done very well, by the way, was Japan. Japan always took care and treated with respect both the music and the customer, whereas a lot of the record companies in England and America pretty much treated the customer and the music with contempt, which is sad. And it kind of did huge damage to the industry. But the question you asked, what is the future? you can have any piece of music you want in any kind of way without any physical thing at all. You can download it and you can play it on whatever device you have without it ever going through the medium of a physical object. But it ceases to be a gift without the physical object. You know, we do talk about not being with some lack of respect in material things. You know, if someone is interested in material things, we tend to treat that with contempt. But it's a mistake. It's a big cultural mistake, because art is absolutely about material things. And so are gifts. You can do all kinds of gifts, but bottom line, material things make wonderful gifts. And the LP included with the music and the package was wonderful as a gift. And as I say, record companies made a huge mistake in cheapening the product.
I mean, a lot of people are making the point that vinyl is very popular again. And I don't know if I told you about this, but one of my clients, he is from Hong Kong, and he often comes to Japan with his friends on record buying excursions, because, like you say, Japan is a place that, you know, puts a lot of value in nicely produced and made things.
Well, they do it for CDs as well as for vinyl.
Yeah, you can still buy the CDs, but he said they all come from Hong Kong to Japan specifically on record buying trips, and I thought that was really lovely, and maybe that will be the way things go again. I don't know, partly at least.
Well, I don't necessarily think that some digital thing will not supersede the quality of vinyl. That has to be said, is inevitable, but it won't replace the magic of a gift.
Oh, Dad, you didn't charge your phone.
Oh shit, do you want the charger?
I'll do it.
Excuse my language. It's the technical term, by the way, for missing the charging.
I'll give you a question to
Okay.
keep you going. How many hours a week do you spend creating artwork?
If I was full on a painting, really going for it, and I had this mental space, I could easily spend 70 or 80 hours painting. That's not normal, but it's not that exceptional either. And I find it soothing, you know, no matter how tight a deadline, I don't find deadlines particularly a pressure, and I enjoy the process.
And the sound of them wishing by. Is that the phrase? The sound they make as they pass by. This cable isn't plugged in, is it? How do I plug this cable in so it's on?
There's a hanging thing there.
Yeah. It's not going on though.
First switch.
Are you sure?
No, that didn't work.
Oh.
Last one.
Is that working?
Yeah. We're going to have to fire our technical assistants.
I mean, I sort of wish we could show people the rigging, because it's kind of like a jungle with all of the cables hanging down. And
well, you could, but I think after what you've just said, you probably shouldn't.
no, we want to at least seem slightly professional, don't we? Please increase the volume of your broadcast. Are you deliberately referencing jellyfish in your design? Actually, yeah, there was a comment somebody made earlier about me scrolling back at questions. Literally, I can't, because even if I went, so say I answer the first 5, there'll be 30 more by the time I scroll back to 6 or 7, and that's going to be why we're going to do the question and answer after Wednesday's session and put the conversation about the questions up on Friday. So if you are desperate to get your question across and I miss it, keep asking, but also you can email us and we'll put it in the Q&A after Wednesday's session. Somebody asked if you admire Drew Struzan.
Who?
Drew Struzan.
Oh, God, yeah. He was a fantastic painter.
Lots of people often ask about Patrick Woodruff, and we've got more today asking if you ever met him. And
Well, yeah, we knew him very well.
yeah.
A friend as well. We published his work, so we knew him from both being a friend and publishing his work. We did, I don't know, half a dozen books with Patrick.
We have a question. Did you ever play any of the games that you designed for?
Nope. I never really... Very, 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 very early on, when computer games first came out and they were giant arcade machines, we did actually get into redesigning some arcade stuff, and we had machines in the studio, and we all became enormously competent at things like Space Invaders. But it was... they stole souls. I mean, it was very hard to get anything done. So I did kind of make up my mind I was going to be not doing that again.
Alice asked, what about Tetris? Well, she didn't. She said... well, I'm not going to do it because caps writing would mean shouting, but did you ever play Tetris?
Well, yes, that was, yes. Not to any high degree of competence, by the way.
You're out of shot. Please move in.
I'm out of shot. Well, that may be the case, but the painting isn't, I hope.
Did you ever work with Chris Foss?
Yeah.
Will Baker suggested floating rocks as helium balloons.
Will, you're far too busy.
I think that's a great idea. Or, what are they called? What are the actual... hot air balloons? Or hot air balloons, that would be good too, wouldn't it? Are you there?
I think you and Will deserve each other.
I think it's do you not think that's a brilliant idea? I think that would look amazing. I mean, so where we are, is there a hot air balloon competition near here or something? Like, you often out the window see tons of them.
I don't know, there is something in that.
And I've done it near here as well. And I think the sort of sight of maybe 5 or 6 going by at, different sizes and in rock shapes, I think that would be amazing. Well, anyway. Did you ever team up with Moebius?
No. We did. I did hope to, but it sadly didn't happen. I spoke to his... I don't know how to describe it. His partner, his biographer, his agent, and we did talk about doing something. That was just before he died, so... No, I loved his work though.
We had a question. Sorry, I missed your name again. What size are the canvases that you're working on now?
What size? I don't know. Later, not now, I'll grab a tape measure and tell you.
Do you like Native American artwork?
Do I like what?
Native American work.
God, yeah. Yes, I spent a lot of time in St. Petersburg in Florida, where they have a natural history and Western art museum, just opened actually a couple of years ago. James Museum is brilliant. And it has a lot of Western art paintings, but it has a lot of Native American jewellery and other craft pieces. Yeah, I love it.
Me too. I really like Zuni jewellery, particularly.
Yeah.
Do you know Jim Burns?
I do. We published his work too.
What's your opinion of digital artwork?
Well, it's... It has... I've seen some unbelievably amazing stuff done digitally. But for me, I like something I can feel and touch. I like the fact that it is actually an object. And that is very important to me. It's an artifact. I like sketching on paper and I like painting. I like the fact that it's something solid. It might only be 2 dimensions, although that's not always necessarily the case. But yeah.
Did you know Rick Griffin?
I did, yes. I first met him, strangely enough, in Brighton. He came down to see us when he came into England for an exhibition of his work at the Roundhouse. And it was on that visit that we talked about doing the book that we ultimately did.
Do you ever use pen and ink?
A great deal. I love that. I do love pen and ink drawing. And I love doing it. I do it sometimes with a technical pen, but I really love the old dip pens and the sort of splatteriness of them.
Kai asked, how do you deal with people who take images of your work and put it on things to sell?
Well, we have a gallows out the back. I don't know. It depends on the circumstances. I get asked this a lot, so I have answered that before. Patrick did it. Patrick Woodruff did it. And he wrote something very lovely in his book about how I should treat it as a compliment. And it was disarming that for 2 reasons. One, that he'd said it, but it also meant that he wasn't trying to pretend it was his idea, which is, there's 2 things there. And that worked for me, that he would do that. I didn't ever want to encourage him because he could paint so well. I think he showed up some of my pieces by painting them better, and I thought that was a bit much. So I did have words with him about that.
There was a comment about the bronze, the Rick Griffin bronze. Shall I show it? It looks rather lovely there.
Yeah, if you like.
Someone asked if you've got some stories about Barry Windsor Smith.
Oh. Actually...
I'll just show you guys the Rick Griffin bronze. It does look fabulous there, doesn't it? Who's the name of the person who made it? Do you know?
It was... I don't know if you would say published, but the person who put the project together was Brian Chambers, and it was published by the Chambers Project.
Did he make it?
He has a foundry.
What are your hobbies? Mosen asks.
Well, on my 17th life, I plan to put aside some time for that.
You're outshot.
Sorry.
You don't have any hobbies?
I don't know. Would you say I do?
I'm trying to think. You do a lot of little trips. Like, I would say if you kind of count a hobby as something you do unrelated to work that you enjoy, that's a bit distracting and you do regularly, I would say you do a lot of sort of slightly pointless trips.
Trips?
Yeah, like you just go, I'm just popping out, and it'll be to like get a bag or like drop something at the recycling, and you have these little trips every day.
I see, that's my hobby, is it?
Yeah.
I've got a few model trains, and that's, they go back. The oldest one I have was given to me by my grandfather when I was really young,
Out of shop.
about 4 or 5. My grandmother thought I was too young to have it, and when we were abroad I would always come back and say, can I see it, can I play with it, can I have it? And she would say, no, you're too young. Till eventually she said, oh no, you're too old for that kind of thing. And I felt really sick. And she did, oddly enough, give it away to someone else. And I don't even know how it happened, but eventually somebody said, this should have been yours, so you can have it. So I got one of a whole lot of them back. Mostly I didn't get them back, but I did get one back. So I was quite pleased about that.
It's funny how these things become obsessions if you have an early experience of being deprived of something.
Ah.
Like when you guys gave away My Little Ponies. And then I could never.
I knew it was risky having you do this.
Someone asked, what's burning behind you?
What's what?
What's burning in the bowl behind you?
Is anything burning?
Yeah.
Oh.
Incense.
It's an incense, yeah. What I'm doing, by the way, is painting the cracks in the rock, but I'm using the light and shade and the texture by letting the paint drain off it to show a very good way where the cracks could be. You can see all these lines. These were not intentional, they're just...
Let me zoom in and show them. Oh, sugar.
Closer? Shall I get out of the way?
Yeah. Could you grab that?
Okay, the painting has textures, lines. All these lines, I've painted on many of them, but these lines are random. They're from, see here, these are just from the paint draining off. That's why I put it on so wet. So it would do that. And in a minute I'll put highlights on, and that'll punch it up into making it suddenly become three-dimensional.
Actually, when you put the lines in, it suddenly makes everything else look right, because it looks like it was intentional. I don't know.
Yeah.
How that. We missed the Barry Windsor Smith story. If you didn't.
Well, actually, my Barry Windsor Smith story is not a story. The guys from the studio, Barry Windsor Smith, Michael Kaluta, Jeffrey Jones, and Bernie Wrightson, all came to England when we published the book, and we toured England doing comic shops and stuff like that. And because Jeff Jones was going to do an Arthurian legend on a separate trip, I took him all the way down to Cornwall. We went to Tintagel and looked around the Arthurian sites, and I loved doing that. And it was great fun being with the guys as we went to the comic shops and things all around the north of England and so on. But Barry didn't join us because Barry is English, and when he came to England he went to his family, so he wasn't with us. I knew him in New York, but oddly enough I didn't see anything of him when they were in England.
It's almost time already. That went very quickly today for me.
Well, okay, what's going to happen with this, I'm going to lighten these. I could even do some now so you can see it. Can I? Yeah, I've got a few minutes.
Yeah. Someone told me to move the camera back so I don't have to shout at you for not being in shot. If I do that, I'll get shouted at for not being close enough to the painting. honestly, I can't win, so you're just going to have to put up with the way that I want to do it, I'm afraid. And direct Dad yourself when you next meet him. It's like herding cats, anyway.
Well, this is an experiment. Today is very much an experiment, but there were so many requests to get more focus on the actual process of the painting, and I can answer the questions. I should have been wearing the mic. Can I pick it up?
Mm-hmm.
That might improve the sound. Does it? Can you hear that?
We'll see.
What I'm going to do is put highlights and shadows on some of the cracks so that you can...
Hang on, shall I go in? Someone just said the painting is more important than Roger. Thank you. I'm doing my best. I'm trying to get everything in.
Okay, so what I'm doing here is just... I mean, it makes the cracks look slightly more weathered because they're not two-dimensional, they're suddenly three-dimensional.
Someone said the sound is a bit more muffled now, so maybe I'm very close to you now, so maybe if you put the mic back where it was, it will pick you up.
Okay.
Everyone's saying stop shouting.
Is that okay?
So cheeky today.
Okay. So, this is just making the cracks look three-dimensional. The rocks themselves are still flat. I mean, this could be a wall rather than rounded rocks. But obviously, we're not going to get time to do that this time. But on Wednesday, I'll make that fully three-dimensional and finish the other one. So it's an interesting process for me. I was painting some rocks from Cornwall, and I was using watercolour very much to paint them as accurately as I could to make portraits, real portraits of real rocks. And it was leading me this way. So although this isn't a portrait of a real rock, the only difference between this and the rocks in Cornwall, which were the role models for this, is that they had a lot of lichen all over them. And I could have added that to this, probably will at some point. And it will then work. I'm painting this stronger because it will dry lighter.
Dave said, I'm waiting to see this painting in the next Avatar movie.
Well...
Yes, wouldn't it be nice to see it moving?
Well, besides being very angry, that was part of my reaction to seeing Avatar. I thought, good God, my stuff looks fantastic on screen.
He was very angry too, though. We went together, didn't we? And we went to the cinema. As soon as it came out in England, it came out first in America. And by that time, there were already hundreds of people emailing and calling Dad about it. So as soon as it came out in England, we went to go and see it. And I won't go into it too much. It was a little bit upsetting in certain parts because I could see Dad was sort of having an emotional time of it. But what was quite funny is Dad absolutely just could not sit still. He kept going up and telling them to turn the aircon up and down and
what are you talking
gripping
about?
the sides of the chair, and it was very tense 3 hours of our lives. But it did, did look good. Good. I think before we finish, we should mention about the courses that we were talking about today.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
as you're doing something quite detailed, and techniquey.
Okay. We have had a lot of requests to do a formal art course teaching, and we are looking into what would be involved. I mean, to do it as a proper formal course. So we are investigating what's needed, and we would be very interested, if anyone's interested, to what they would like to see in a course.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing that we were kind of thinking was there's sort of two general areas. There's the technical things, like how to do sky or landscapes or trees or a landscape that includes all of those elements, or the creative process and energy and, you know, more how you get in the frame of mind of creating things. But we just kind of wanted to know, if we were going to put on a course, what people would like. If you could wave a magic wand and at the end of a formal course be able to do something with your art that you haven't been able to do previously that would make you feel really happy about it, what would it be, hypothetically? Is it a technique thing? Is it a way of working? What would you want to know how to do? Creative process, we've got a vote already.
Okay. Anyone can apply unless they're working as product designer, production designer for a certain movie maker.
I mean, it seems like people like the idea of the creative process.
Okay.
And we were talking about it this morning with a friend of mine who teaches, and Dad and he were talking, and I think it's a really underappreciated thing, the idea that creativity can be taught, is what you guys were saying, wasn't it? It sort of seems to be something that people think you either have it or you don't, but actually it's not like that. There are things that you can do.
Yes, absolutely so. Okay, this is beginning to look like a rock wall. It's still totally flat, but it's got shapes in it. And I know we're running out of time. There's a couple of other things we were going to say. We are very interested to look and see if it's a viable thing to do this painting course, or drawing for that matter, or creative process, or all of the above. But the other thing that's had a couple of very important big steps forward today has been the process of renovating and moving the prototype onto the studio site. That's taken a step or two forward. So nothing to show you, but we will keep you posted on that.
Old hippies eligible.
Sorry?
Old hippies eligible, question mark.
I guess they must be.
So yeah, from today on, we're going to be doing the lives on Monday and Wednesday, as usual, at 7 p.m. But rather than Friday being a live, it's going to be us working through the questions that we couldn't get to. So while I'm looking at this, I'm noting down everything I see, but when I'm noting, my head's down, I miss things. And Dad can't get through everything. He stops working, gets distracted. So we're going to go through all of those before Friday and then upload it onto YouTube on Friday. So if you have burning questions, you can email them. But I will be going through the questions asked that we missed during the lives as well. So the Friday Q&A will be pertinent to the Monday, Wednesday live, if that makes sense.
Yes. There is something else I need to say. There is two, well, there may be more than two, but there's certainly two important YES projects going on at the moment. I can't tell you what one of them is. That's a big mystery to me too, to some degree. But I will be doing preliminary paintings for that. And the other project is we're looking at doing something with Close to the Edge, which will have as many as 6 or 8 paintings in it, not just the original, but a lot more, plus some of the narrative the original was based on. So that is probably going to come out sometime around the 50th anniversary of Close to the Edge, which might be pretty imminent actually. So we'll keep you posted about that too.
Yep, always a pleasure reading your comments and questions. You're a really nice bunch, and hopefully we can get through more of your input on the Friday Q&As.
Yes. It is a fantastic honour and privilege to have you guys come and watch. It's a bit spooky having something, that many people looking over my shoulder. It's a bit spooky having Freya looking over my shoulder actually. But as I say, it's a great honour and a great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you everyone. See you on Wednesday.